The air inside the Wolfschanz command bunker is thick, humid, and vibrating with tension. Flickering lamps cast long, nervous shadows across the war maps covering the walls. Dozens of pins, arrows, and markers dot the coast of France, each representing defensive units Hitler believed would hold for months. Suddenly, the heavy steel door swings open. A pale radio officer rushes in, headphones still hanging around his neck, breathless. Mein Führer, a massive Allied landing has begun. Not a diversion, not a raid, a full-scale invasion. The room freezes. Hitler slowly turns toward the young man, his face rigid, his eyes wide but cold. He demands the report be read again. Another officer steps forward, voice trembling. Over 150,000 Allied troops, already ashore across Normandy. Landings at multiple beaches, paratroopers inland. The scale is unprecedented. For a long, unbearable moment, Hitler says nothing. His silence is more terrifying than any outburst. His commanders shift uneasily, trying not to meet his eyes. A map suddenly slips off the table, startling everyone. Hitler strides toward the central table, gripping its edge until his knuckles turn white. His voice rises slowly, shaking with suppressed fury. It's impossible. Impossible. This is a diversion. The real attack will come at Calais. It must. Keitel opens his mouth to speak but stops, the words die in his throat. No one dares challenge the Führer's belief, even though the truth is now undeniable, the Atlantic Wall has been penetrated. Hitler slams his fist against the map, sending markers scattering. I want confirmation. I want reports from every sector. How could this happen? Where were our defenses? The tension becomes suffocating. Outside, radios crackle endlessly as more grim updates come in. Inside the bunker, the reality dawns on everyone except Hitler. D-Day has succeeded, and Germany has just stepped into the beginning of its end. The bunker buzzes with frantic activity as more radio reports flow in, confirming the unstoppable Allied push across the beaches. Hitler's jaw is clenched tightly, his breathing heavy and uneven as he absorbs the scale of the catastrophe. His eyes burn with a mixture of disbelief and rage. Around him, his generals stand stiffly, men who have fought battles their entire lives, now terrified not of the Allies, but of the reaction they know is coming. Hitler suddenly wheels around, pointing a shaking finger at the nearest officer. Activate the panzer divisions. Every tank we have in the west must move, immediately. Drive them back into the sea before it's too late. Jodl clears his throat, carefully choosing his words. Mein Führer, the panzer divisions are held in reserve far from Normandy. They require your direct authorization, but even with that, the roads are clogged, and Allied aircraft dominate the skies. Moving them now. Hitler cuts him off with a roar. I don't care about excuses. The invasion must be crushed today. If we wait, we lose France. If we lose France, we lose the war. A tense silence settles across the room. The generals know he's right about the stakes, but tragically wrong about the strategy. The delay, confusion, and chaos mean the counterattack he imagines is already impossible. Yet none of them dare say so. Keitel steps forward, sweat dripping from his brow. We can initiate movement orders, but it may take hours. Hours. Hitler snaps, slamming both hands on the table. We don't have hours. I want those tanks rolling now. Maps rattle, pencils fall to the floor. His anger fills every corner of the bunker, suffocating all reason. Generals exchange helpless glances. They know the counterattack cannot happen the way he demands, but they also know that refusing him is even more dangerous. In that moment, the war turns, not because of strategy, but because fear has replaced leadership. After the eruption of rage in the command room, Hitler abruptly turns away from his generals and storms down the dim corridor toward his private chamber. The heavy steel door groans shut behind him, sealing him in solitude. Inside, the room is cold, lit only by a weak yellow bulb that swings slightly from the ceiling, casting unsettling shadows across the concrete walls. For a moment, he stands perfectly still, gripping the edges of a small desk as though holding himself upright. His breath is ragged. The muffled echoes of frantic radio chatter seep in through the walls, each fragment confirming the same truth. The Allies are ashore in overwhelming force, and the Atlantic Wall has failed. Hitler begins to pace, his boots thudding heavily on the floor. His hands tremble uncontrollably, and he stares at them with a sudden flash of vulnerability, as though shocked by his own weakness. How? He mutters under his breath, eyes burning with confusion. How could this happen under my command? He moves to a mirror hanging crookedly on the wall, staring at his own reflection with cold fury. Traitors, sabotage, betrayal from within, he whispers, the words dripping with paranoia. It must be the generals. They've undermined me. They've doubted me for months. His pacing quickens as he talks to himself more intensely, his voice shifting between anger and fear. This invasion is the beginning of the end, unless they are punished. Unless I take control myself. For a brief second, his shoulders sag. He sits heavily on a nearby chair, burying his face in his hands. The crack in his confidence is unmistakable. He knows, deep inside, that Normandy is not a diversion, not a trick. It is the decisive blow he always feared. Outside, the bunker remains alive with emergency reports. Inside, Hitler is trapped alone with the terrifying realization. The war he started is beginning to collapse around him. The command room falls into an uneasy stillness the moment Hitler disappears down the corridor. The door slams shut behind him, but the echo lingers like a warning. Generals Keitel and Jodl exchange a heavy glance, one filled with dread and resignation. The room is still buzzing with radios spitting fragmented reports from Normandy, but now the officers speak in hushed, fearful tones, as though afraid the concrete walls themselves might carry their words to Hitler's ears. Keitel wipes the sweat from his forehead with a trembling hand. This is it, he whispers, his voice cracked from strain. The scale of the landings, we cannot push them back. Not today, not with our reserves scattered. Jodl steps closer, lowering his voice even further. We should tell him, he says. We must. If he continues to believe Calais is the real target, he'll delay the armor until the Allies secure everything. Keitel shakes his head sharply. Tell him, after what we just witnessed. He'll accuse us of defeatism. He'll blame us for the failure, not the situation. They pause as another officer approaches with a message. More paratroopers reported near St. Mir-Eglise, the man reports. They're securing bridges and blocking the roads. Our reinforcements won't reach the beaches for hours. Keitel closes his eyes, pained. Jodl sighs heavily. The truth is crystal clear. Their defensive lines are collapsing faster than they can report it. We must soften the reports, Keitel murmurs reluctantly. If we present the full scale of the disaster, he'll lose control entirely. The army needs leadership, not another outburst. Jodl hesitates. And what about the panzer divisions? Should we push again for their release? Keitel looks toward Hitler's closed door. He won't listen. Not now. Not unless reality forces its way in. In the dim bunker hallway, the two men stand silently, knowing the war is turning, yet powerless to steer its course. Fear and truth wrestle in their minds, but fear wins. The heavy silence in the bunker is shattered when Hitler suddenly reappears in the doorway, his boots echoing sharply against the concrete floor. His face is pale, almost gray, but his eyes burn with a harsh, feverish intensity. Every officer stands at attention instantly, their backs straightening, their expressions forced into rigid masks of obedience. The atmosphere tightens like a noose. Hitler steps toward the central map table, sweeping aside scattered markers with a violent gesture. He looks around slowly, his gaze cutting through each man like a blade. Listen carefully, he begins, his voice low but trembling with emotion. Germany will not retreat, not 1 inch, not 1 step. The officers remain silent, though dread ripples through them. They know the situation on the beaches is deteriorating by the minute. They know the Allies are gaining ground, swiftly, decisively. But Hitler continues, his voice rising. The Allies believe this is our end, he says, pounding his fist on the map. But they underestimate the will of the German soldier, the steel of our resolve. We will gather every available force. We will push them back into the sea. And we will do it today. A few men exchange barely perceptible glances. They know it is impossible. But none dare speak. Hitler's voice sharpens as he points toward the west. I am ordering full mobilization. No division, no battalion, no man is to withdraw. Anyone who retreats will be executed. The fatherland demands absolute resistance. The room absorbs his words like stones sinking into deep water. Finally, he leans forward, gripping the table with both hands, breathing heavily. Victory or destruction, he mutters. There is no third choice. His officers raise their hands in a stiff salute, but their faces reveal the truth. This is not a promise of victory, it is the confirmation of collapse. Outside, distant thunder rolls, though the sky is clear. The war has changed forever.